Welcome back to Fintech Insider Focus in association with Visa. In this show, we take a burning question from financial services across the globe and really put it under the microscope with explainers, expert panels, and in-depth interviews, all to bring the global community into focus. Today, I'm joined again by my Fintech Insider Focus co-host, Pamela Ceballos, who is the Senior Director, Digital Partnerships, Fintech, and Ventures at Visa. How's it going today, Pamela?
Hi, David. Great to be back with you on this second episode of our topic.
Very good. In this second part, we're going to be focusing on the question, how does agriculture and fintech collide in LATAM? If you haven't heard part one of this conversation, go find it wherever you found this podcast and listen to our panel discussion with amazing guests from Mana Tech and Pomelo. We spoke about how the importance of the agricultural businesses is to Latin America and how financial services slots into that perfectly. Also, why is it so important to get this right for scalability and sustainability reasons for the region much more broadly? Pamela, I mean, we had quite a broad-ranging conversation, but maybe to start us here is like, why is this something so important to Visa? Like, why do you guys care?
Yeah, definitely. I think enable payments for all around the world. It's a key of our mission and is central what we do. This is not different for agriculture, right? Like agriculture for Latin America represents around 25% of the GDP of the region, and it gives job and gets a lot of people involved, more than millions and millions working on agriculture and being part of the ecosystem. So creating the correct financial services for them and to serve the needs of a different industry in terms of capital, cash flow control is key that we develop programs and products for those type of companies. I think we're seeing more and more technology invested in this and people adding value to the change of production of the agriculture. So definitely a space to learn more, and we can only expect to see more companies getting involved in this in terms and enabling technology and digitalization to serve that an industry that has been here for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, so for something that is 25% of the GDP, then solving those real problems for that particular organizational structure or particular needs that they have as an industry is really critical to making it successful. So, I mean, in this second part, what we're going to be doing is sitting down with a big name guest from the LATAM fintech scene to dive into the weeds of this topic and offer a little bit of a different perspective as well. It's a super interesting conversation that you definitely won't want to miss. You'll hear that after a quick short message from Visa. Don't go anywhere. Visa's FinTech Fast Track program is streamlining the onboarding process for fintechs, enabling them to gain access to Visa's powerful capabilities and network. Visa and their enablement partners help fintechs launch and scale cards, virtual credentials, and disbursement programs. To learn more, visit partner.visa.com.
Thank you, David and Pamela, for that introduction. I'm Benjamin Ensor, Director of Research and Strategy here at 11FS, and it's great to be joined by a fascinating guest to dive further into the question of how do agriculture and fintech collide in Latin America. I'm delighted to be joined by Eduardo Novillo Astrada, Chief Executive and Co-founder of Agrotoken. How are you doing, Eduardo?
Hi, Benjamin. How are you? Good to talk to you. Thank you for the invitation.
It's a pleasure to have you on the show. For our international audience, can you give us a quick summary of what Agrotoken is and what it does, please?
Okay. Agrotoken is the first global tokenization platform of commodities. We started in Argentina a little bit. For you to understand, as you know, in Latin America and the undeveloped countries, we don't have a very strong currency. Okay. First of all, and our economies, we have a lot of inflation and devaluation against the dollar. So in Latin America, mostly in Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, and Brazil, that are the big producers of soybeans and corn and wheat. When you go to rent a farm, you rent a farm and you agree the price on tons of soybeans. When you agree a financing with the seed company, Corteva, Syngenta, Bayer, Monsanto, you agree on tons of soybeans or sacas de soya in Brazil. When you go to buy a machinery, the same, like Case, Honda, like a John Deere, imagine that, you agree the financing of the price on tons of soybeans. So we realized that the grain was already behaving as a stable coin in this industry. What we did is only put a layer more of technology to that is happening already in the agribusiness. That is Web3, that is the blockchain technology. So we created a stable coin backed by grain. So it's a real stable coin backed by real assets, and that is what we are doing. We are tokenizing real world assets to use them as a way of transaction, as a way of collateral for a loan, speeding up transactions, putting down cost, and for the farmers already here is very normal. If you want to put it another way, we are going back like 2,000 years ago, when you come with your bag of grain and you pay and you change your bag of grain for 2 chicken or one pig or something like that. We can do it now with small amounts of grain and buy a coffee at Starbucks or buy a huge tractor with grain. So basically, that is what Agrotoken is doing.
This is fascinating. Thank you. So there's a lot to dig into here, but am I right? You were saying that some farmers were using grains to negotiate with seed companies and equipment manufacturers and so on. We're already sort of using grains as a form of payment. Is that right?
Yeah, a lot of farmers. Yeah, 40%, between 30 and 40% of the transactions in the agribusiness around here are done by barter. Okay.
Wow.
So it's something that is being used already. Imagine that with an inflation like we have of 100% a year in Argentina, it's impossible to have someone to be financing pesos. It loses all the value of what they've been financing, and then you have the problem that the different rates of the dollar too. You have an official dollar that is almost 50% different with the unofficial dollar. So the only way that the companies like these big international companies are covered against the inflation and devaluation is by receiving grain that they can transform it directly into pesos or dollars or whatever they have to do it.
I can imagine this is very, very difficult for many of the farmers in Argentina and indeed some other economies. But what about you? Why was this an area that you wanted to start a company in? What drew you to agriculture?
I have a very different background to all the other founders. I was a sportsman. I was a polo player. So you're in England. I spent a lot of my years, more than 20 years, traveling to England to play the polo seasons there. And so polo is very related with agribusiness. My family has been in farming and agribusiness for a long time. And I met my partner like 4 or 5 years ago. He introduced me more than 5 years ago. He introduced me to blockchain and crypto. I went crazy about blockchain more than crypto, to be honest. And so we were in a meeting doing some other things, and someone called and said, "How we do to lend money from the crypto world to the Argentine farmers?" Everyone knows here that we have very little access to financing and to credit. So I said, I said, look, that is impossible, but I like the idea. Something, I think we can find something here. So that's how we started. That was the trigger. Was unbelievable what happened afterwards, because we realized that there was an immobilized asset like the grains that they were staying at the farmer's farm because it's the only way they keep the value. Okay, they can save. So and then we realized that all the farmers around the world, they think the same. They think, they transact, and they save on grain, on their production. So that is a little bit of my story.
Fascinating, fantastic. So You've talked a little bit about how important agriculture is to Argentina, to Brazil, Paraguay, Uruguay, and so on. It's a huge part of the economies. But how have banks and farmers sort of worked together in the past, right? Because this problem has existed in the past. I know Argentina is going through a tough time with its currency, but there have been periods of inflation in the past. What was the sort of way of dealing with this in the past? Was it always just barter?
No, in the past we didn't have this, this problem so much marked. Now in the last, we've been doing barter for the last 50 years or something like that. And is the way, like I told you, is the way that the farmers and the companies, they found to work together. And it's something that we believe that will go to other countries, okay, and to other economies. And why? We started in 2020 during COVID pandemic, no? And when we discovered this, and when we discovered all this reasonable, about what we were doing, we believe that it's going to happen in all the other countries. And all that has been happening since 2020 until now, all this economy, world, travel, or problems, and problems with the dollars, and problem with the you have now Russia, China, Brazil doing a new currency, and with all the creations of these new currencies too, we see a world of a multi-currency world where barter barter will be a big thing, and will be the way that farmers and producers all around the world will have a better price and a better price and more just price for the production.
Can you tell us a little bit about your typical customer? Is your typical customer, a very small farmer with, just a few tractors and a few fields, or is it a huge agricultural business? Or can you tell us a little bit about who your typical customers are?
That's a great question, man. What we do always what we do, all the products that we do is thinking about the small and medium farmers, okay? And now our customers are coming to be, we are transforming ourselves more into infrastructure, okay? And we are giving infrastructure for people to build on what we build, okay, on our tokenization platform. So there we have banks, we have suppliers, we have all the big suppliers, we have banks, suppliers, and farmers, okay? We made a deal with Visa, so Visa, we issue Visa cards where farmers can use their production to pay in 100 million merchants all around the world in the amount that they want. So everything that we do is thinking about the farmers, but we are going through the chain, okay? We are going through the merchants, through the banks, through the suppliers, that are the ones that are going to give their clients a better treatment, an advantage for them that they can use their grains more. And we believe that for small farmers, this will be the way to get better financing, because most of them, they don't have the right paperwork for their farms. So they don't have access to credit because of that. So, but if they have their production and they can price the production better, this will be more fair for them. But at the moment, what we are doing, our go-to-market is with the big farmers, because they are more the influencers, okay? They are the ones that get technology faster than the other ones. They are more educated, and they are the influencers. If they do it, the other ones will do it.
Got it. And tell us a little bit about how it works. So I understand that you take a ton of grain, whether it's soy or wheat or corn, and you turn that into a sort of agrotoken. So what does the farmer have to do? Does the farmer have to deliver that grain somewhere? How do you sort of make sure that grain exists? Can I do it before I harvest it, or is it only once it's harvested?
Yeah, there are two ways. We started with the delivered grain. That is the most normal. We didn't have any benchmark. So what we did is we saw the circle model. Circle is the one that issued the USDC. So for every dollar delivered, or every dollar at the bank, they issue one USDC, and that is audited by Deloitte. So we had a lot we started in Argentina, we have a lot of delivered grain, but it's not it's not price. It's not it's not gotten the money by the. It's not paid by the Oracle. We call Oracle the grind handler. Okay, the Cargills, the Kofco, the Dreyfus, the NDM, the Bungis of the world. Okay, so for us, those are the banks. Once the farmer delivers the grain there, he issues a receipt. That receipt for us is the proof of existence. And there is a contract that says that Cargill is going to pay that farmer in 6 months or 9 months at one delivered time that they agree for that money. That they assign that contract to Agrotoken, and that for us is the proof of liquidity. Okay, so we issue a token once we have the proof of existence and the proof of liquidity, and that is the way we started. Brazil has another model; it's a little more advanced. So they have what is called future grain. So farmers are got credit or financing on the promise of the harvest. Okay, so we deliver that, but there in Brazil and now in all our tokens, we discover that we can put not only proof of existence, proof of liquidity, but proof of origin. And proof of origin is the way that the farmers will monetize about their good practices and ESG and sustainability. Okay, so that is another thing that we can, another attribute of our token.
Yes, because I wanted to ask you about that and whether that is an important part of the tokenization, because there are people in parts of the world and businesses that are worried about deforestation, particularly in the Amazon and so on. And obviously, soy, I think perhaps particularly, is sometimes being grown on land that was rainforest 5 or 10 years ago. So you were able to use the tokens to track sort of which patch of land in Argentina or Uruguay or wherever the grain comes from.
Exactly. It's exactly like you said. We have like we call proof of origin now, and that is that you have to certify that there was no deforestation, that is no slavery work, that is not a kind of chemicals, that you are doing the right practices. So and we really believe that through our token will be a big change for farmers, because farmers, they will not change their practices if they don't monetize for that. Okay, we are asking them to produce in maybe a harder way, more difficult for them, with less money, and less production. So we need to get them a way that they can monetize that good practices, and we believe that the token is the perfect tool.
How easy is it going to be for you to sort of expand this across other markets, whether that's other countries in Latin America, other types of crop? Can you tell us a little bit about, you talked about Brazil, you've already expanded in Brazil. Can you tell us a little bit about your sort of plans and your hopes?
Yeah, I'm going to divide that in two parts. That is the plans and the hopes, okay? So, but no, of hopes or vision, but look, our roadmap is Argentina, Brazil, and US, as you know, as a startup, as a company, and to focus on soybeans, corn, and wheat. 70% of the production of those three crops in the world are produced in these three countries. Okay, so basically that is the roadmap as a startup. We are already tokenizing. Our infrastructure is being used with other partners to tokenize cattle, to tokenize land, productive land, farms. And now we are doing sugarcane and ethanol, and we are starting to do something with coffee too. So yes, what we are focusing is in natural resources as a platform to be the first movers, and our hope is that what we are doing is we are giving access to everyone to invest in natural resources, and we think that will give us a better and more just economic system. And the other thing is that by doing what we do is we redistribute risk for the farmers and wealth, and that is where comes our vision or our hope. No, for example, in Latin America, it doesn't get even to 2% the people that invest in the capital market. Okay, in Europe and US, 70%, between 70 and 80% of the people, they have their investment in the capital market. So we believe that in these countries where sometimes they have some savings, but they are never going to invest in Tesla, in Google, in Coca-Cola, in Amazon, in this, but they will invest in commodities. They will invest in wheat, in soybeans, in corn, in a lot of land, maybe $2 or $3. That is, for you, nothing. For these people, is a lot. In something that will increase their value and is, a hard currency that is only going to get 3 or 4% a year, but in a hard currency. Things that they understand, that they believe, that they use to in the daily basis. Imagine a baker. What is the most normal or reasonable thing for a baker to hedge or to save? Is on wheat. He's going to use wheat. On a taxi driver, what is the thing that they use more? Gas. So they can now, if you want to buy gas, or you want to buy wheat or corn or soybeans, you can't at the moment. So we believe that this will be something really, really big for the economy of our region.
Tell us. We're coming to the last few minutes of the interview, but just tell me a little bit more about the benefits for the farmer. So you talked about you get more certainty. The farmers get more certainty because you're able to help them sort of hedge against inflation and currency risk. You also said there's a Visa card. Can you so they can spend against the agrotokens? They can effectively, I suppose, by spending on those cards, are they effectively spending their agrotokens? Could tell us a little bit more about the benefits for the farmers, please?
Exactly. The farmers, many of the farmers, for example, in this part, you have to have a minimum to send to a Cargill or to send to a grain handler for them to pay you or buy you for that amount. Okay. Usually it's a truck. A truck is 30 tons. It's $15,000, and sometimes you have to price that grain in a moment that you only need $500 or $100. So that is one advantage. Now the farmers, they can use the grain in the amounts they want, wherever they want, and be more easily attached to the price whenever there is the best for them. They can use that, production, instead of selling it. Maybe they can use it to get a loan that sometimes is better. In Argentina, in this part of the countries now, the farming is more a financial business than a productive business. So that is what we are giving them the advantage to do. Then we are giving them the opportunity, like I told you, to save and keep the grain because it's what they want, and to be long on grain. No, they always want to be long on grain because they always think that grain will be have more price, and that they don't want to sell it when they are asked to. And the barter, it's important for them they can do barter in any amount they want.
Okay. My last question for you then, Eduardo, is how important is the blockchain element to what Agrotoken is doing? Could you have done some of this without a blockchain? And are you hitting any sort of barriers with regulators? Are you getting any sort of skepticism about sort of blockchain because of the sort of crypto speculation and so on? How important is blockchain to Agrotoken?
Blockchain for Agrotoken is everything. Okay, is what is enabling us to do what we do. If not, before it was impossible, because like I told you, this that we are doing, what the farmers are still they are doing, they are paying with grain, they are using the grain as a currency, but now they can fractionize this grain in levels that they couldn't before. They couldn't buy a coffee anywhere in the world with their grain. So, exactly. So through blockchain, they can do that. Okay, they transform and then mobilize that asset into a financial asset, into a digital asset. So that is blockchain. Then we have what you asked me about crypto. Well, we have to change our wording a little bit after what happened, in the past 6 months or 8 months with all the crypto world and all these things that have been happening. We just use pay with your grain or use your grain as you want, like never before. Those are the wordings that we started. That's why for us, I said our agreement with Visa is so important, because for the farmer, if we give them a Visa where they can spend with their grain, and then they can see on their phone that I don't know, they had 100 tons of soybeans, now they have 999 tons, that they just spent, one little thing or maybe kilos of that. So Web3, that is our Web2 with Web3, that is the Visa card. So they don't need to understand what is behind the blockchain or the crypto or whatever is behind, that is blockchain. And then we are really, really proactive with the regulators. We always try to do things more like copying like Coinbase and Circle about going proactive. So we are the only crypto asset allowed by the Central Bank of Argentina. We are approved with the CNB, that is like the Nasdaq the SEC from Argentina. We are doing the same in Brazil. At the end, what we are doing is we are digitalizing grain that is produced in that country. So that is basically that is represented by a token. The token, we had a very good way to explain a token now. A token is when like the coin for the parking lot, or when we used to use the coin for the phone. That is a token. Okay, represents X amount of time of parking, X amount of time of a phone call. Or when you go to the fair. You remember, you go to the fair, you buy the tickets for the fair. One ticket represents a Coke, the other ticket represents a hot dog, and it's that. So we understood a little bit how to speak to the farmer. But the best thing that we are doing now is always going proactive with the regulators, not doing anything that can harm Agrotoken. Everything is very new. We are very disruptive, so the regulators are coming behind and trying to explain to farmers that is something that they've been using, and now we give them a Visa card and they can spend their grain, and that is all that they want to know,
Wonderful. Well, you've got some quite different audiences there, haven't you? And the sort of regulators and the central banks on the one hand and the farmers on the other. This has been absolutely fascinating, Eduardo. Thank you so much. That wraps up this edition of Fintech Insider Focus in association with Visa. Where can people find out more about you, Eduardo, and about Agrotoken?
We are in agrotoken.io. They can find it there. We have a website and they can read a lot about us. We've been all over the news now. But yeah, and write us and we are going to answer all your questions if we have them. We don't have all the questions for sure. But yeah, well, we are the first ones in the world to do it, so we are learning every day. It's quite complicated because we have to know about blockchain, crypto, financing, agribusiness. So it's regulations, a lot of regulations. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, wonderful. Thank you. And you can find me, Benjamin Ensor, on LinkedIn or at 11fs.com. So thank you to all of you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please do subscribe to our podcast or leave us a review to help us make it even better and help others find the show. For more on this discussion, look out for the next episode of Fintech Insider Focus in 2 weeks' time. Thank you all so much, and thank you again, Eduardo, and goodbye.